Hi everyone, I'm Beardsley. Welcome to the fishing scene. Can you see my breath? I can. Hey, we're crappie fishing almost towards, after the 20th of May. And I'll tell you what, folks, it is a cold day out here. The temperature is in the upper 40s, and we're looking for crappies. What we're using, we're just using a small float, stationary float, no slip rig or anything like that. And we're throwing in real close to cover. Those crappies with this cold front that came through are hiding up in the cover. So we're gonna cast our jig out there and see if we can get something going here. Yeah, it feels more like the first part of April than it does towards the end of May. This is the kind of weather, though, that those fish, many times, there's one right, oh, missed him. Those fish are going to be a little more lethargic. So when you throw that float out there, don't start jigging right away. Let it sit there. Let it sit there for a little bit and let that minnow get down there and kind of swim around a little. There's one right there. A little bit. And the subtle approach is definitely the way you want to go on a day like this. Oh, small male crappie. And more than likely, oh, and we'll get him back in the water. More than likely, we're going to be probably catching mostly male crappies today. Those bigger female crappies might have moved out with this cold front into a little bit deeper water. Again, we're using basic stuff, using a very small little Lindy quiver jig. Tied it directly to my line, and then I'm just putting a small minnow on there. And again, I'm using a stationary bobber, so this is when it's really fun, when the weather's a little bit warmer, to be out here with the kids. Because not only does it make casting easier when you cast out that jig with that float on there, but the kids get a thrill out of seeing that bobber going down. In fact, adults like myself, who's really a little kid at heart, I get my excitement too when I see that float starting to go down. I'm gonna get re-rigged up here, and we're just taking that minnow and hooking it back behind the dorsal fin there, just like that, nice and lively. And then what we're doing on this particular lake, and this will work on any lake that you're on that has crappies in, especially this time of the year, and really even in the summertime, look for some wood or look for some old tree branches or logs, any kind of brush that's sitting in the water. That's going to attract those crappies. Now we'll see if we can get another one going in here. Now if it was a bright, warm, sunny day, I can guarantee you those crappies would be biting like madmen. In fact, as soon as that float would hit the water, they'd probably start thumping on it right away. But let it sit there for a little bit. You know, give it a couple little jigs. Let it sit there a little bit, and then as you get out away from that cover and no action, you might as well reel it in. You might as well reel it in and get her back close to that cover, because those crappies under cold front conditions like this are going to be hanging up in that cover like that. So I'm out a little ways now. I'm going to reel her back in and cast it. Now once you get on a school of crappies, if you get on a school of crappies when the weather's like this, you can anchor up if you want. I'm not doing that right now because what we're doing, we're kind of getting fish scattered. We're getting one here, one there. You pick up and then you move down the shoreline a little bit, maybe see a log in the water, pick up another one, get in maybe 2 or 3 out of that spot, and just kind of move along and work your trolling motor. And you want to try to stay out from the real shallow water, because even on a windy day like this, you're going to spook those fish. They're up in that real shallow water. They're only up in about 2 feet of water. Oh, I missed them. Right in that cover. Now here's a good lesson right there. When that wind's blowing like that, it bows your line out. So when I'm in here trying to run the motor and trying to run the my line and everything, you want to make sure you have a pretty tight line so when you set that hook, you can get a good set in there. Okay, I'm right in next to that cover now. Well, there's one. Boy, they were right in next to that cover, folks. Right in next to the trees. And another reason too is that wood warms up a lot quicker when that sunlight is out, even though we don't have any sunlight today. There's a black crappie, huh? Yeah, another male crappie there. Nice black crappie. These are not real big crappies, but they sure are fun to catch. And if a person was going to save a few, you know, nice eating size fish, get that guy back in the water. But yeah, the key is throw it right in next to that cover. And once in a while, you're going to get hung up in a tree. It happens to everybody, including me, probably more times than not. And once you, if you got to go in and retrieve that jig, a lot of times those fish will be spooked out. So you want to make sure that you know, you move on down the line, maybe come back to that area a little bit later. I didn't get in real tight that time, but there's one. That one was a little further out. They are fun to catch. I'm telling you, folks, bobber fishing with crappies in that shallow water, man, it's a ball. It is a ball. Another nice black crappie. And the thing is, if we continue to have kind of this cool weather, where that water temperatures are, you know, hanging in there fairly low yet, those crappies will stay in that shallow water for quite some time.
Coming up next on the fishing scene, we're out doing some late winter ice fishing for panfish.
Hi folks, welcome back to the fishing scene. We're out here doing some pan fishing now, and the walleye season, at least in the state of Minnesota, is closed now. Now if you're in North Dakota or South Dakota, you can still be walleye fishing. But in Minnesota, the walleye season is closed now, and it really only gets better from here on out as we get into the month of March and perhaps even into early April. Those the ice fishing opportunities really turn on quite well for panfish. When you get out onto the area that you're planning to do some pan fishing this winter, what you want to do is get to that area and then pop some different, you know, holes in different areas. So I've got a spot here where I'm on one edge of this big weed flat. I've got two more holes on another area on an outside edge, and then I've got two more holes that are right up in the thick weeds, because a lot of times you'll find those fish right in those thick weeds. It makes a little tougher fishing, and it's really tough to see them on your sonar because of all the weed action, but a lot of times that's where you're going to find those fish. Hey folks, here's the deal. When you got your flasher down there, you want to go after those aggressive fish. There's one right there. Most of those aggressive fish are higher up in the water column. There's a little better, Sonny. And you'll be able to see those on your locator. So you want to go after those more aggressive fish. There'll be fish maybe up and down, you know, from the bottom up, say 3, 4, 5, maybe even up to 10 feet. Go after those top fish. Those are usually the more aggressive fish. And you'll see them. You'll see them on your flasher if you're using a flasher. Now again, the key here for today has been, and it seems like it's really been that way a lot lately, is you want to glow up those jigs, even in the middle of the day, which we're out here at mid-afternoon right now, and you want to glow up those jigs. Make sure that knot is centered straight up on top there on the eye of your jig. And then when you put that bait down there, if all of a sudden you see that bright red line come up to your bait, but they're just looking at it, make sure you check, because what happens a lot of times is they probably got your bait and they're just looking at a plain jig. And more likely than not, they're not going to take it. Or all of a sudden, let's say your flasher's lighting up like a Christmas tree, and then all of a sudden the fish are gone. They're just scattered just like that. Chances are there's probably a northern pike down there, and it might be a while, you know, for that pike to swim off before those crappie, sunfish, perch start moving back into the zone. And when those fish are moving up towards that jig, depending on how, there's one right there, that's a good fish. That's a better fish. That's a better fish. It's a pikey. Not a big one, but see? Pike down there. That's what'll happen sometimes. Those pike will move in. Even the small pike like this, you know, they'll take on a 5, 6, 7 inch sunfish or crappie or perch down there. So, you know, we'll get him back down there. Hopefully he'll swim off the other direction and not bother us anymore. When you're fishing for these panfish, folks, oh, there's one right there. Oh, this is a better fish. It's that same Nordski again. I'll be darned. I think it's the same one, folks. Oh, he's getting wrapped around my sonar cable there. Hold on here. Let's see. We can get him up there. We got. I think it's the same pike. Come here, buddy. I think it's the same pike. The pike, you know, especially the little ones, they're aggressive. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to throw them down the other hole this time. Maybe I'll go the opposite direction. But when those pike move in there, those panfish are going to scatter for a little bit, but it's pretty neat. They might go off and hide in the weeds or into deeper water. Where here, where we're at, there's not really a lot of deep water close by, but there's some good weed beds, so I'm sure those fish probably moved into the weeds. But once that pike gets out of there, they'll move back out and start coming back in. But what I was going to also say is that when you're jigging for these panfish, you know, there's a couple of ways to look at it, how you can do it. You know, you can be pretty aggressive with your jigging, and I'll show you what I like to do to kind of get them to entice that bait. And then what I'll do is when they get close, and I'll just stop. But what I'll do is I'll drop that bait down into the zone, watch it go down on my flasher, get it down where I want it to be. I can see it fall in the water column there. And then I like to hold my rod, instead of holding it like this, I like to hold it like this. And I can take my wrist and just go back and forth like this and get their attention. There we go. And get their attention, then I stop and bingo, fish on, baby. Sonny? See, it doesn't take long for those fish to move back in. Now these sunfish that we're catching aren't, you know, real big. They're just barely eaters. We're not keeping any, but those crappies that we've got now this afternoon have been pretty gosh darn nice. So again, I just got done flashing or, you know, glowing up my jig, but I'm going to do it again. Anytime you bring that up, if they're going on a glow jig, you want to make sure each time they bring it up, you use a flashlight, or like Lindy makes it's called a Lindy taser light, or you can use a number of different types of light to just make that jig glow a little bit. That can make all the difference in the world on a lot of occasions. Yeah, I'm getting their attention right now. There, I stopped, bang, whapped her. Little guy, this is a real small one. Little guy. And that's the thing, as you get in towards, on certain lakes, you get in towards the end of the season, a lot of the bigger fish have kind of been cropped off early in the season, and some of those bigger fish have been moved out to some of those deeper holes. But what they'll do is, as we get more towards spring and more towards the ice out, those bigger fish will move back in those areas also. And the thing is, you know, put those bigger fish back. I mean, you know, really the smaller ones are better eaten anyhow, and those bigger fish are the good brood stock that you want to keep in the water. keeping the lake for future generations so they can produce some of those big old hogs. Damn you, crappie. Hey folks, get out here and enjoy some late winter ice fishing in the Detroit Lakes area. Lots and lots of lakes with lots and lots of nice panfish. When we come back, we'll be open water fishing for some crappies. Coming up next on the fishing scene. Now another thing that you can look for is not just brush that's hanging down in the water, but there'll be other areas where you'll actually, there's some wood. In fact, there's a log sticking up over here. I'm gonna cast over there and see if there's any hanging in next to that log. Anytime you got wood, there's always a chance this time of the year there's gonna be some crappies hanging around it. Couple reasons. As I said before, that wood will warm up the water. Plus, that wood also attracts little minnows, insects, and those crappies are looking for food. They're looking for warm water, but they're also looking for some food. You know, when it comes right down to it, that's the one thing that all the fish have in common, is that they're all looking for food. They're trying to eat, and they're trying to keep from being eaten. So that's another reason why you'll find them hanging out in the cover. Now we're going to move on down the way here a little bit and just kind of keep pitching out along this shoreline here. Now we know we had fish back there. Okay, we got fish back there, so we know if we have to, we can always come back there and try to get some more fish. That one got my bait. So we got on some fish already. We can come back there, but let's move on down the lake a little bit just to show you that you'll be able to catch these crappies in many area lakes all along that shoreline in that shallower water, especially where you've got some cover. Okay, so I got that minnow hooked up there. Let me get my boat flipped around here. Yeah, see, we're actually catching these fish. I had that boat out in about 10 foot of water. I just swung in here next to that log just to check to see how deep it is. And it's about 2 feet. But then it starts falling off pretty quick. So now we're gonna go down. I see some really good cover down the way here. There's some more trees and some more wood in the water. Boy, folks, I'm telling you, those places just, they attract fish like crappies, largemouth bass, sunfish. They attract them like, you know, steel attracts a magnet. Gotta be a fish in there. Isn't there? If I was a fish, I'd be hanging around in there. Just letting her sit and being patient. Give it a couple little jigs. Oh, missed him. I had a bite in there. He might have got my minnow. They're very good about sneaking that minnow off into your jig there. I'm gonna reel this in and see if he got my minnow. Yep, he sure did. Those crappies can suck that minnow off, so we're gonna get baited back up there and get in there as quick as we can before we get by it. I'm just using my trolling motor to kind of stay out a little bit. Oh, Crappie City right here. There's got to be one in there. Come on, Crappie. Don't make a liar out of me. There we go. Oh yeah. Right underneath that tree there, folks. I knew there'd have to be a crappie underneath there. That just is too fishy looking not to have a crappie underneath there. Oh, I'm telling you, this is fun. This is fun. Hey folks, there's a nice crappie. Hey, bobber fishing with crappie minnows and a small jig. Get the kids out, have a ball, save a few for eating, look for wood, look for cover. You'll catch plenty of crappies just like we did today. Please remember to practice selective harvesting. By doing so, we'll continue to have great fishing for years to come. I'm Dick Beardsley. Thanks for joining me today on the fishing scene. I'll see you out on the water.